Welcome back everyone to Weekend Tabletop Warrior. Today we are going to look at our third tutorial in the Fallout Wasteland Warfare Getting Acclimated Quick Start Guide. And today we are looking at Weird Harvest, which is that third tutorial that I just mentioned. And it's basically very similar to the tutorial 2 that we looked at before, shooting range, except we are doing this mainly with our baseball bat, which is a melee weapon. So we're going to go through melee attacks and charging in this video. So you'll see the board set up very similarly, except in the story here, instead of hitting cans or crates or whatever, these investigation markers are basically showing us mutt fruits or mute fruits, however you want to pronounce them, I suppose. But again, we've got our custom crates here, just to give us a little bit more depth on our table. And we're going to go through pretty much the same exercise we did before, like I said, but with melee attacks. So we'll take a look at some different statistics here on our Soul Survivors card. This time we are looking for the little knife icon. That means melee. That is the stat that our Soul Survivor uses for melee attacks. In this case, our Soul Survivor Day 1 has a strength, which is where that melee icon is, of 4. So it's going to be a little tougher than shooting for her because it's a lower number stat. Remember, we want to try to get that number or less to succeed when we roll that white die. So that's what we're looking at there. The other thing we want to look at is not only, not only will we be moving regularly using the yellow range ruler that you can kind of see up in the corner here. That is her regular movement. We are also going to be charging. So her charge movement is red. Red range rulers are kind of over here on the side. It's a little bit further. There's some specific rules to charging that we'll go over kind of as we go through this tutorial. So again, that is the Soul Survivor card. The next thing we want to look at is our weapon for this scenario. In this case, the baseball bat. You'll notice there's no range ruler colors up here, like there was with our 10mm pistol in the previous video, because you need to be in base-to-base contact with a model or an object in order to deal melee damage to it. We do see the additional dice that we're going to use this time, in this case the black die and the yellow die that we're going to roll alongside our white die. We also see that this weapon deals a 1 physical damage as base. We're also going to see a symbol down here that we haven't quite explored yet before, and it is the Nuka-Cola bottle symbol. So it's basically telling us if we have 2 Nuka-Cola bottles that we roll up on this attack, we can do an armor break, an additional armor break. So there aren't a lot of Nuka-Cola bottles that we're going to see rolled up, unless we go ahead and roll that blue die for our critical. But this scenario doesn't call for criticals. We went over that in our last video, so we will not really be going through that today. So let's take a look. Actually, there is a Nuka-Cola bottle on the yellow die as well. There's one on the black, so there's a chance that we'll see it. But the yellow die has a lot of armor breaking on it already. So that's kind of what the baseball bat is meant to do, is deal a little bit of damage, maybe spike for more damage with the black dice, and then break some armor with the yellow. That's kind of what yellow is meant to do. So let's put that back on the side here, and let's get started with our mission. Alright, so we know we have to be within base contact with any of these boxes, or mutt fruits, or however you want to look at it, in order to attack it. So first thing we can check is, are we within regular range of any of these boxes? And I can see here that almost perfectly, well, I guess it's base to base, so you can go right up, follow the range ruler as far up as you like, until you're touching the box, and now we can attack the box. So we just did a movement action, just a regular movement action, and then we're going to attack the box. So we're going to use our base die that we just talked about. We've got the white die, which we always roll for any skill check. We've got the yellow die and the black die for the baseball bat. So I'm going to go ahead and roll those up. Remember, we need a 4 or less to hit. Okay, so we've got a 9, so obviously that is not 4 or less. So we are not going to hit the box this time. We got an extra damage and an armor break icon there that doesn't help us with our accuracy. Now, The next box I'm going to try to charge to see how you can use that to maybe increase your chances to hit what you're trying to hit. So I'm going to go ahead and try to roll this again, looking for a 4 or less. And there we go. So there's our critical. So because we're not heroic, we don't have that critical icon on our card. That doesn't do anything for us except tell us that we hit. The critical icons count as a 1 essentially, so that is 4 or less. We also see we got a -1, which doesn't really help us additionally because we already succeeded, and 1 Nuka-Cola bottle. But remember, we need 2 of those in order to get our bonus effect here. So that 1 Nuka-Cola bottle doesn't do us anything additional, but we deal 1 damage to the crate again, and that destroys it. Okay, so now let's see if we are within range of any other boxes that we can run at, and we are not. But this looks like it may be close enough for us to charge at. Let's take a quick peek if it's something we can do. And of course it is. Now we are going to charge here instead of just running. Now remember, our Soul Survivor has a movement of yellow but a charge of red. So that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to charge this box. Now charging has a couple different rules. You have to be able to end your charge within base-to-base contact of a target. So you have to be able to basically try to swing at them. So a charge also allows you to do a couple of things when you make a charge. So there are 2 things you can pretty much do, is give yourself an additional black die, or you can give yourself an additional green die for your next attack roll. There are tokens in the box that allow you to do this. So you basically choose whether or not you want to try to hit for more damage on your next attack, or if you want to try to increase your chance to hit on that attack. Alright, so I'm going to decide whether or not I want to charge and give my Soul Survivor an extra green die to help with accuracy, or on the flip side of that token, there's a black die icon that helps with damage. So because these crates don't have any armor, they only have 1 hit point, I'm going to try to increase my accuracy for my next turn by giving her a green die. So we're going to go ahead and make our charge advance, which is going to end base to base with this, and I carry along that token with me to show that we're going to throw a green die with our next attack because we just charged in. So our die pool normally looks like this for the baseball bat. I'm going to go ahead and grab an additional green die to add to that for the charge. So now I'm going to attack. The other reason I'm taking the green die is because a 4 is a little bit lower on the scale of accuracy, and a 4 is what we're looking at for strength for the melee attack. So I'm going to try to increase my accuracy here. Okay, so that actually helped me out. So what I've got here is we're looking for a 4 or less. Oops, I rolled the 7, sorry. I rolled the 7, which is higher than 4, but on my green die, I got a -3, which actually brings us down to 4. So that is actually a hit. On my yellow die, I got an armor break and an additional damage on my black die. So this token goes away for my attack for the charge, and the box gets destroyed. So now that green die goes away, unless I decide to charge again and give myself an extra green die. So it looks like now I'm within charge range of this box here, so I'm actually going to go ahead and charge at that box as well. So I'm going to make a charge, and this time I'm going to choose the black die, just to kind of show you kind of that you can easily choose one of each, whichever. So now my die pool looks like this. So for the regular baseball bat, I got the white die, the black die, and the yellow die. And I'm going to go ahead and add an additional black die there this time. So I'm going to make that attack on that box and see if I don't get completely messed up by going for extra damage versus the extra accuracy. And I did. So this is some reason I kind of wanted to show this. So I got an 8 on the white, 2 additional damage, and an armor break. That didn't really help me out there, obviously, because I didn't hit. And I believe I only got that black die for the ensuing attack after the charge, so that would go away. But one thing I can actually do, since I just made a close combat attack, is slide. So if I'm still base to base with the model or item I was just trying to attack, I can slide around that item or model. So slide is a special movement again that you can make after attacking at close combat, as long as you do not break base contact with that model that you just attacked. So I'm actually just going to slide around to this side, still remaining in base contact, because hopefully maybe that'll get me closer to this one if I want to charge at that one next, which I'm not sure if that's going to put me still within base contact. I don't have a proxy base handy, but it might get me very, very close. So let's swing for the next attack here. Again, I'm pretty sure I lost that bonus black die because I missed on the charge. I believe that was only in the attack that followed up from the charge. So I'm back to the regular baseball bat dice pool. I'm gonna go ahead and roll those up. And I got a failure. It's just a straight up X. So no matter what modifiers I get, I missed. I only got a blast for extra damage. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to roll again. And there we go. So I got that critical exclamation point there. So that's an automatic hit. If it had armor, I would have broken a piece of it. So this box is now gone. So now I'm gonna try to see, since I did my slide to put me on the other side of that box that I was just attacking, I believe I can charge this box and remain within base contact of it. And I am just, I think, out of range of that. Yep, not quite within base contact of it after moving the charge, so I cannot actually charge again because you have to end your charge movement base to base with your target. So I'm going to move up for my movement there, and then I can actually charge even if I'm within yellow, which is her base movement. I can still charge if I want to, even if it's fairly close within red there. So I'm gonna go ahead and charge. I learned my lesson. I'm gonna grab the green die to add to my dice pool this time. So this is what my dice pool will look like with the baseball bat with the green charge. I'll go ahead and roll this up. All right, and I got a quick action here. So the quick action in this is basically giving me an action that is slightly not as good as if I were to actually just take an action with it. So in this scenario, we're not using quick actions, but I'm actually going to show you guys what that quick action would be. So let's say, I mean, it's kind of tough because we're not doing turn orders and 2 actions per turn like you normally would do, but let's say attacking this box was my first action for the turn. So after I'm done attacking, I have a quick action as well that I can take along with another action. So I automatically get a 1 as well for the gear icon. I got a -2, an additional blast, and an armor break, but that essentially acts as a 1 as well, so that box is broken. So now if we're taking a regular turn, and that was my first action, I have one other action I can take, and then a quick action that I can take as well. So what I'm going to do in that case is I am going to take my quick action next, and if I want to move for a quick action, essentially what I would do is I would take the next range ruler size down for movement. So in that case, we've got the yellow range here for her regular movement. I believe orange is the next size down on the range rulers there. Just clarifying, I believe that is true. So if I wanted to move her with my quick action, I could do that. That leaves me with one final action that I can then take, which I could move in, or I could charge, in this case here. So I'm going to charge in, put a token here to remind me that I've got a green die. If I go ahead and attack that on my next turn. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because I'm the only one playing. So again, I'm going to add the green dice because the black die is not going to help me out with 4 strength stat. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this up. And I've got a 6, which is not a 4. So I lose this because I just rolled with it. And I missed. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this up again. Removing, of course, the green die because now my charge bonus is over. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with exactly 4. So that's it. So that box is destroyed. It's also worth noting that on certain models' cards there is something called a battle cry that you can do with the charge. Our Soul Survivor does not have the battle cry action. The battle cry, you're looking at this fist icon here. It has to have a color on it. If it does not have a color on it, it just means that you can use whatever stat it's on to try to avoid being affected by someone who's using a battle cry on you. So essentially a battle cry allows you to either throw both the black and green die as a bonus, or if you're successful in the battle cry, you can actually push an enemy model a distance away equal to whatever color the battle cry icon is on your card. So for instance, let's say a super mutant brute has wandered onto the battlefield here. He also has our baseball bat. If we take a look at his card, you'll see that he also has the fist icon here, but it's yellow. So that means he can actually use the battle cry and he can push people back with it a distance of yellow. So let's say our super mutant brute here decides he wants to charge. His charge is green. The green range ruler is fairly long. I'm going to go ahead and pop it out of my little plastic bag here. I'm pretty sure he's within green of her. So he can go ahead and make that charge at her, electing to use the battle cry instead of the special dice mechanic. Alright, so now we're going to look at an opposed skill check, essentially, for the battle cry. So what we're looking at here is the strength of the brute, which is 8, versus the charisma of our Soul Survivor, which is a 5. So whoever succeeds this skill check is going to be the one to kind of win this little challenge. If our Soul Survivor wins, she's not affected by the battle cry and she gets to make a reaction. If our brute wins, he gets the benefits of the battle cry, which is adding the extra dice and the push. So we're looking for an 8 and a 5. So let's say our brute rolls first. We got a critical success, so he succeeded, and our Soul Survivor is next. We're looking for a 5 or less, and she gets an 8. So she failed to resist the battle cry. So as his attack comes up, he gets to take an additional green and black die. So with the baseball bat, his dice pool is going to look like this. That's a lot of potential damage and a lot of potential armor breaking, and it's probably going to hit. He's got an 8 on his strength, which is his melee attack, and you got the green die there as well. So he's going to roll all these up. He gets a critical success on the hit, some armor breaking there, so everything's successful there. He then gets to decide now to push her yellow distance away. So after dealing the damage there and resolving all the extra stuff, he's going to go ahead and push our Soul Survivor yellow away from him using the battle cry. So that was a look at the third tutorial in the Getting Acclimated guide for Fallout Wasteland Warfare, with a little bonus on how battle cries work for charging. So we looked at the melee weapons, we looked at how that works, how charging works, and next time we get together we're going to go over the final tutorial, solving the rat problem, which adds some armor and some additional health, and we're going to be using 2 range rulers for the hunting rifle. So we're going to take a look at that on the next time we get together, but until then, happy gaming everybody.